Bitcoin loan, the do's and don'ts. Very, very important. Now, what I pride myself on this channel is being authentic and sharing with you guys exactly what I do. And one thing that's important is I'll never share with you anything I'm not invested in myself or actually doing. I'm qualified to tell you what I'm doing. I'm not qualified to tell you what to do. It's very important to study this stuff at a very deep level. But I've been talking a lot about Bitcoin loans and how I used it. So I'm going to explain how I used it, and I'm going to explain the do's and the don'ts, which is very, very important, okay? Now, one of the biggest things I've learned through my journey becoming a seven-figure investor and a seven-figure entrepreneur is how to use tax-free loans, okay? It's called leverage. What I just did recently, you may have heard me talk about this, I just want to go more detailed into it, is I used a Bitcoin loan. Like I told you guys, I'm not ever selling my Bitcoin. That's going to be a bank for my family, and my insurance, my Index Universal Life, is a family bank as well. So I have two family banks. So the example of what I did is recently I did a Bitcoin loan to buy my general agency, my insurance firm. So I was in an IMO, which IMOs are fantastic if you're wanting to start a business at very low risk. But based on my ecosystem, I decided to start my own insurance brokerage and build my own general agency, which is Freedom Insurance. So in order to do that, instead of going to Wells Fargo Bank, Chase, Bank of America, submitting all this paperwork and going through all this rigmarole, excuse me, I went to my Bitcoin and I used it exactly what it was intended for. So what I did is I got a Bitcoin asset-backed loan, 70% loan to value. I was able to take that and buy my general agency. Now what the key to this is, is I'm only taking loans to buy something that generates cash that can pay the loan back. That's key, okay? So I borrowed against our Bitcoin. I got a Bitcoin-backed loan, 70% loan to value. I pulled that cash tax-free. I bought the general agency, opened up our own general agency. The funds and income from the general agency are paying back the Bitcoin loan over the next 12 months. So you're probably asking, well, what was the interest rate? So right now, the going interest rate was about 14%. But based on Michael Saylor's model, Bitcoin's growing about 50% every single year. So I borrowed against an asset that's going to grow by 50% every year, okay? At 14%, my general agency pays back the loan in 12 months. So you see what I did? Is I took an asset, I borrowed against it tax-free, because loans are tax-free. I bought a cash-generating business where that business pays it off in 12 months, and now I'm 100% LTV. All my Bitcoin is back now, okay? And now I have a cash-generating business that will go for a lifetime. That's the richest man in Babylon. So that's what I'll be doing with my Bitcoin and my insurance policies, and that's what I'm going to encourage my family to do, my kids, as we build our family bank. We will go to our own banks, leveraging against our own cash value, using the insurance money, getting a loan, against our own Bitcoin to buy cash-generating assets and continuing to repeat that process. So that's a do. That's an example of exactly what I did. Here's the don'ts, okay? This is very, very important, okay? The don't is be very careful when you're leveraging against cryptocurrency, okay? The don't is do not take a crypto loan or an asset-backed loan in the bull market. So when Bitcoin is shooting up, be very careful with taking an asset-backed loan. So for example, if Bitcoin was peaking out at 200,000, I would not go leverage 70% of that because we know it's going to come back down in the bear market, right? I felt it was pretty stable. It was really in a good position. Based on my analysis, I felt that it's going to continue to go up on the back end of the year, and with my agency, I'll be able to pay it off in 12 months. That's a risky move though, right? I have to guarantee that my agency is going to produce that much income to pay it back, which it is, and so we did a lot of risk weighting to this. I have a CFO, I have a team that does risk weighting, okay? So you're not wanting to go borrow against your Bitcoin to buy a Lambo. Don't borrow against your Bitcoin to buy something that's not going to pay the loan back, because what happens is, if Bitcoin came collapsing down, that's the risk I'm taking. If Bitcoin comes collapsing down, they're going to liquidate my Bitcoin, okay? So very, very important. But these are examples of how the wealthy stay wealthy. They use leverage. Robert Kiyosaki talks about leverage all the time. That's why I'm storing my wealth in Bitcoin, XRP, because in the future I'll be able to do that with XRP as well. That's why I have a lot of cash value life insurance, and we continue to grow that aspect to have our family bank, and we have our Bitcoin bank. That's an example of using a Bitcoin loan, okay? What I'm seeing and hearing people doing is they're taking loans against their assets to pay their bills. Go figure out how to create cash flow. Do not borrow against your assets to pay your bills, okay? Do not borrow against your assets to try to do things that don't generate cash flow. You're better off going and flipping stuff off free off Facebook Marketplace. Go clean windows on the weekend. Go get a sales job. Do everything you can to create cash flow, okay, before you ever do something like this. The only reason I take loans from my assets is to buy another business. For example, Elon. He took a loan from Tesla, his stock, to buy Twitter. Okay, that's how the wealthy stay wealthy. They're not pulling from their assets and paying huge capital gains. They're borrowing against their assets tax-free. So that's the do. That's exactly what I did, okay? But you need to do your own research. But this is the beauty of decentralization. This is the beauty of being an investor, because what you're not only doing is you're taking your US dollar that has 3% purchasing power, you're transmuting it into things that protect, compound, and grow, like insurance, and allows you to borrow against tax-free, or you're transmuting it into things like Bitcoin, XRP, utility tokens that eventually, or stocks. You can do that with stocks as well. But that's an example of a Bitcoin loan. A lot of people ask me where I did it. I have zero affiliation with them. I'm not recommending you go use it. This is what the company I used. It's SALT, S-A-L-T. I think they've been around since 2016. The loan was about 14%. We did all the risk weighting. We felt that with Bitcoin going up on the back end of the year, and we could be wrong, but that's another factor. This is what I want to share with you. I didn't put it on here. We could be wrong, but here's another thing, is if we're wrong, we have cash on the side or enough liquidity, other Bitcoin, to get that LTV back. So if it starts collapsing down, we have that money on the side, whether it's through our company's treasury or personally, to right-size the LTV. Does that make sense? So you don't want to do it if you have a cash flow problem. You don't want to do it in desperation. You only want to do it by doing deep risk weighting and buying something that's going to generate cash to pay it back as quick as possible. So just to recap, I took a Bitcoin loan from SALT at 14%. I invested in my general agency. General agency is already producing income, easily where I paid our first loan payment back. So when the loan payment goes back, I pay them 14% for the money I borrowed, and then each time it goes in there minus the interest, right? Your LTV goes back up once the loan is paid off. I have a 12-month loan. In 12 months, I'll have 100% LTV once again, and I'll probably leave that in there in SALT to continue to leverage. So just wanted to share that with you guys, the do's and don'ts. Be very cautious. We need to learn how to multiply our money. That's the key. Read the book, Richest Man in Babylon, and I hope this clears up a lot of the things I've been talking about. Warriors, rise. Get your shit together. Let's go.